Hello everyone, I'm Professor Hélène Perret. I'm a professor of virology at medical school in Université Paris-Cité, and I'm very happy today to talk about HPV vaccination around the world with you. First proof of efficacy of HPV vaccine was showed in Australia in 2006 with two clinical huge studies, Future 1 and Future 2, which prove the efficacy of HPV vaccine, quadrivalent HPV vaccine, which protects against HPV genotype 16, 18, 6, and 11. And these studies showed the efficacy of quadrivalent HPV vaccine against HPV infection, but also against pretumoral lesion in Australia. After that, the impact in real life of HPV vaccination was shown tardively in 2019 because of the delay between HPV vaccination and development of HPV-induced cancer, which is about 15 and 20 years old. We have to wait a huge study of registry in Sweden on 1.6 million of women, which shows, as you see here, that women who were vaccinated before 70 years old showed 88% reduction of cervical cancer incidence. In the population of women who were vaccinated between 17 and 30 years old, the reduction was obviously less because a part of these women were already infected by HPV, but this reduction was even more than 50%. And obviously, you have the incidence of cervical cancer in the orange line, with the orange line in women who were not vaccinated by this HPV vaccine. First proof of efficacy of HPV vaccination on the incidence of cervical cancer. After that, different European countries showed that in real life there is also a significant reduction of cervical cancer incidence between 86% reduction to 100% reduction if you vaccinated young women at the age of 12 or 13 years old. So, when we look at the HPV vaccine introduction worldwide and its tolerance, as you see, almost 140 countries and territories have already introduced HPV vaccine since 2006. This nearly 18 years of experience resulted now to more than 650 million doses distributed in the world with a huge tolerance and obviously efficacy. Recently, WHO organization initiates a possibility for cervical cancer elimination. The goal is to eliminate cervical cancer worldwide by 2030. To reach this goal, we need to go to 90% of vaccinated girls before 15 years old. We need to have 70% of screened women at least 2 times in their lives. And finally, to have 90% of treatment of positive women for screened lesion. With this trio, 90%, 70%, 90%, we are able to eliminate cervical cancer. It's a huge information. Finally, with this WHO Organization Cervical Cancer Elimination Initiative, 3 countries are now able to say that they will eliminate cervical cancer in their countries. It's Sweden, Australia, and recently Denmark. Sweden with the possible elimination of cervical cancer in 2028, Australia in 2035, and Denmark in 2040. It's a real race against time. Who will be the first? We don't know actually. And obviously, the common sense tells us that if cervical cancer elimination is achievable, what about others HPV-induced cancer in the future, like anal cancer, oropharyngeal cancer, and other gynecological and genital cancers? If we do now a little focus on HPV recommendation in France. Recently, a very favorable environment for HPV vaccination was decided with the development of school-based vaccination for teenagers. We know that the countries where HPV vaccine coverage is upper than 80% use the school-based vaccination. Moreover, the recent extension of vaccination competencies to chemists, midwives, and nurses have reached to the augmentation of vaccine coverage and particularly HPV vaccine coverage. If we focused on actual HPV vaccine French recommendations, all girls and boys between 11 and 14 years old are able to be vaccinated with HPV vaccine, with 2 doses of nonavalent HPV vaccine. And for this population, you can have a catch-up opportunity from 15 to 19 years old with 3 doses of nonavalent HPV vaccine. For men who have sex with men, we have the possibility to vaccinate this population up to the age of 26 years old. You have to know that the Haute Autorité de Santé is actually working on the extension of the HPV vaccination deadline to 26 years old for all. All this favorable environment in France reached to the HPV vaccine coverage at 55% in young women and 41% in young boys. So it is not still the 90% that want WHO organization, but we are in a very positive way. And I'm sure that we will be able to eliminate cervical cancer and perhaps whole HPV-induced cancer in France in the future. So to conclude, HPV vaccination is safe and effective. HPV vaccination has now been introduced in most countries in the world. Cervical cancer can be eradicated by HPV vaccination regarding WHO strategy. So what about other HPV-induced cancer elimination in the future? We are able to eliminate all these viral-induced cancer. Thank you very much.